Friends, welcome back to another video to help you explore endlessly, play wildly, and connect deeply. Today we're talking about breath. Breath rocks. Breath is great. Breath has changed so many things for me in my personal life, in my athleticism. It has changed many things for my clients in their training, in their sport, in racing, in their personal lives and practices. One thing that's awesome about breath is it's readily available. You can be training it right now or practicing right now. It's cost-free, doesn't cost a thing. It's there waiting for you to go get, and it can shift things from our physical. So for example, belly breathing to help relax the abdominal region, especially if you're a charged up person like myself, or a lot of my clients, a lot of my athletes. It can also help regulate the nervous system, regulate up, regulate down, what have you, whether you want to rest and relax, or get fired up, get charged up. Today we're specifically talking about carbon dioxide and its importance in the exchange of oxygen throughout our body, especially in athleticism.
When people at a gym or when people are jogging, you see them really going to get the maximum amount of oxygen in. That's not what is happening to your body. So you are offloading the CO2. By offloading too much CO2, you're causing constriction in your circulation.
Now, if we're over breathing, if we're breathing too much, which is really common, unfortunately, we're blowing off too much carbon dioxide. Every time we exhale, we release carbon dioxide. We inhale oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide. In order for the Bohr effect to happen, which is the exchange of oxygen throughout our body, put very simply, we need carbon dioxide there for that exchange to happen. So if we are over breathing, if we're not mindful of our breath, there's a good chance that we are blowing off too much CO2. And today we're going to do a test to do exactly that, test our carbon dioxide tolerance. And I'd like to acknowledge that this is a test that was created by Brian McKenzie. It's something that landed on my radar through Andrew Huberman and is highly spoken of by both Huberman, Andy Galpin, many coaches and people in the researching area when it comes to breath, physiology, athletic performance, things like that. So thank you, Brian McKenzie. So what you need for this test is a stopwatch. Use your phone, use your watch, whatever works. It needs to be able to keep track of time. How this test works is you're going to take 3 to 5 breaths in through the nose. After 3 to 5 breaths, a deep inhale all the way to the top. At the top of that inhale, start your stopwatch, and the slowest, most consistent, unbroken, no swallowing, no pauses, exhale through your nose. There's no holding at the bottom. I want this to be a true test, right? This is for you. This isn't for you versus your neighbor or anything like that, right? So have it be an honest test. One more review. 3 to 5 breaths in through the nose. Deep inhale in through your nose to the top. Start your stopwatch. Consistent exhale. Consistent stream as slow as you can, okay? Because you're going for as long as possible. Without pausing, without swallowing, without breaking. When you get to the end, stop your stopwatch. Cool? Go do that now, then we're going to regroup. All right, welcome back. So as you exhaled, you ran your stopwatch. At the end, you stopped your stopwatch, and you have a number. That was your total exhale. That is your score. Now, before I talk about these different numbers, which you can probably start to assume what's going on here, I want you to consider that there's no good or bad. This is a baseline for you, and this is a tool that you can use and continue to come back to as you add a breath practice and as you add maybe more cardiovascular training to your routine, what have you. Simply being mindful of where you're at with your carbon dioxide tolerance is a fantastic tool to then go work on that. So wherever you land on this table, if you will, is great. It's a baseline, and you can work on increasing that even if you're here at the top. Okay, so we have some numbers and we have these scores. 20 to 40 seconds average, 40 to 60 intermediate, 60 to 80 advanced, in a minute 20 and above elite. Most people that I run this test on the first time, they fall here in this average space and they're right around 30 seconds, let's call it. It's not a bad thing per se, especially if you haven't been practicing different breath techniques. If you don't have a breath practice in your routine, there's a pretty good chance that you're somewhere around 30, maybe 40 seconds. But know that the more that you can tolerate this carbon dioxide buildup in your system, the less when you go push for your sport, you're gonna have air hunger. So as I ramp up intensity, I'm running or I'm biking or I'm whatever the sport is, and I start to breathe heavier, I'm blowing off more carbon dioxide. If I can slow that down, which means by slowing it down, more oxygen, less of a sympathetic response in my nervous system, especially in the endurance athlete, this is really important, there's gonna be a necessity for me to be able to tolerate carbon dioxide. Make sense? So we have a score, we know where we fall on this board, this becomes our baseline. So 2 final things that I wanna review when it comes to the CO2 tolerance test. The first is, this is a test to continue to come back to, right? This is something that you can use as a metric a couple times a week, I'd recommend, and morning is the best time. So you get up, you have your cup of coffee or what have you, or tea or whatever your drink is, and you do this test. Takes a minute, 2 minutes, right? You get your number, check in. It gives you an idea of how your breath practice is showing up. It gives you an idea of how your training is showing up, or if you're implementing the gear system, which we'll talk about later, that's something that will affect this CO2 tolerance test, right? You're gonna have a higher reading. If you're implementing box breathing, unequal ratio breathing, which I'll add videos for shortly, check my channel for those, it's gonna affect this in a positive way. Your number is gonna be higher. Your CO2 tolerance is gonna be higher. And then when you go to do your sport, and when your sport ramps up, you're gonna have less air hunger. You're gonna be doing less of this. Blowing off more carbon dioxide and putting yourself into a sympathetic, upregulated state. In order to breathe slower, in order to retain more carbon dioxide, more oxygen throughout the body, we need to be breathing slower, thus have a better carbon dioxide tolerance number. The second thing I want you to think about with the CO2 tolerance test is that if you are in a sympathetic state, if your nervous system is upregulated, right? If you've been spending a lot of time feeling stressed, anxious, just a little bit wound up, a little bit jittery, whatever it is, you are likely going to see a lower number on your CO2 tolerance test.
Honestly, the CO2 tolerance test, and we've talked about that a number of times, and we probably have plenty of research to go find that. But that doesn't require anything. It typically takes about a minute or so. Just in our experience, this tends to track extremely closely with HRV and other metrics of recovery.
Why is that? If we think about it, if we're breathing more rapidly because we're stressed or we're anxious or we're spending too much time in traffic or we're not being mindful of our breath, we haven't implemented practices like breathing practices or meditation, so we're breathing faster, more time in an upregulated state, blowing off, right, more carbon dioxide because we're breathing smaller breaths, shallow breaths, more breaths per minute. That's obviously going to affect the amount of carbon dioxide in our body because we're breathing faster, which affects how you tolerate carbon dioxide. Your system will adapt to the practices you are putting it through. Okay, I'll say that again. Your system will adapt to the practices you're putting it through. If you consciously work on increasing your carbon dioxide, then the autonomic nervous system will adapt to that and it will tolerate carbon dioxide more when it comes to sport and through your daily life. So there is only benefit to being aware of your CO2 tolerance. There is only benefit to be found in having a breath practice, whether it's box breathing, unequal ratio breathing, my athletic performance breath sequences that are coming out. And know that it can be as simple as being mindful and slowing down your breath through your nose throughout your day and in sport. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for tuning in. Check my channel for breath practices. Continue to move mindfully, breathe mindfully, play wildly, have fun out there on the trails. I'll see you next time. Peace out.